Coming from a house somewhere in Florida, it's Friday Night Live with your host, Smitty. Okay, that was pretty boring. Well, I see I got 3 people here so far. What's going on, y'all? What's up, Steven? How's the weather out there in California? Okay, you can see my other laptop behind me. So, how's everybody been doing this week? Excuse me. What's up, Brian? My home state of misery. Chickamauga, Georgia. Is that actually a place, Corey? I know where Hannibal is. Well, I'm glad they can help, Don. That's the whole reason why I put them out there. I was hoping they'd help. How well can you guys hear me? I got this new mic I'm trying out. Central Kansas, the corn state. Loud and clear, sweet. Lost in the woods, right? Oh, wheat state. Well, every time you go down 70, you see, well, I guess you're right. I mean, it's a bunch of wheat fields and beans and that kind of stuff, but anyway. Well, I just got back from the coastline today. I had training again for work. Training on a transmission that's just pretty much becoming obsolete already. We're looking at an Iacen front-wheel drive 8-speed and the 8L90. About 20 minutes away from Chattanooga. So you're right on the border, Corey, correct? Chattanooga's right on the border, if I remember right. Many times going back and forth to Missouri, I've traveled that 24 that goes up through there. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything they're coming out with now has got a 10L90 in it on the front drives, or rear drives rather, and then they've got the 9T40 9-speed front-wheel drive automatic. But I got to have the class for certification, even though it's becoming obsolete. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I haven't got the video out yet, but I got to give a shout out to one of the guys I subscribed to. I met him this last weekend. I met with L to the W. He's got a 3rd gen and a couple other nice cars. He's got an SS and a GTO that are pretty sweet. He's also a veteran, and he was having transmission issues, so I got to meet him this last weekend, and I picked up his 700 R4, and we're going to go through it on the channel and see what we can find. He said it just after he put the converter in, it worked for a little bit, and then as soon as it wants to go into third, there's nothing there. So I'm thinking it either the rest of the 3/4, on a 91, I don't think they had the molded pistons in them yet. So they would have been the aluminum pistons, and they had a bad tendency to blow the seals out of them. In fact, that's what happened to Scarlett's original transmission too. I don't think it moved, but that's the same thing that happened to it. But my guess is it probably laid the Ford Sprag over, but that'll be coming in some video. In fact, when we get done here, I'm going to go try to see if I can get some teardown done and get some videos. I've been recording videos, as that's why I've got a lapel mic on. It can be caused from higher pressure. The GM knew that there was an issue with it with the aluminum pistons because they have the replaceable lip seal. So that's why in the later model ones, when they knew they were going to ramp the pressure up, they came up with a molded piston. And the piston is actually steel with the seal molded on there. You can retrofit any of those back into the old transmissions with no problem. With an exception of the very first models of the 700 that they came out in 83 and 84, and those things were junk. They had so many problems with it because it just didn't have enough pump pressure. So they come up with a 10-vein pump for the transmission in 87. And they used that 10-vein all the way up until 96, I think it was, is the first year they used a 13-vein pump. 95 or 96, one of the two. But yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, the repops of those third-gen dashes are pricey. I mean, I can't believe how high they are now. I know when I had my, I use the 13 in mine, Brian. I always have. Even the 700s, I'll put a 13-vein pump in it. The pressure's more constant. It's just more steady that way. But the third-gen dash, when I first bought one of those was my 80. I had an 82 Trans Am, and that was a 5-liter 4-speed. It had a Super T10 in it. That was a fun car. But anyway, I bought a dash pad for that, and at that time I bought a brand new one, and it cost me like $175. But man, that was years ago. And now they're like $500 and $600, something like that. But at any rate, yeah, I grew up with I had a buddy of mine that had an 82. That's when I first got into the Camaros. He had an 82 Z28. And his brother had an 83 or 84. I think his was an 84. But oh crap. I had another buddy that we ran with. He had an 87 Berlinetta, and it actually had the pod. The 82 that he had, Brian, it was an actual carbureted. It was just regular carbureted. It wasn't the Crossfire. I did have another buddy that had an 82 that was a Crossfire, and that thing was a piece of junk. Oh my God, those things were so tough to work on. That was way back when I didn't know as much as I do now. I mean, I can work on them now, but the biggest problem they had with those was getting the throttle body synced. But anyway, he had me take it off and put a carburetor on it, and that car ran like a scalded dog. Man, that thing flat flew after it got rid of that crossfire, and I was okay with that. I sold him my I had an '85 El Camino at one time when I was still a bachelor, and that was kind of my play toy. And I built a 355 roller for it. Put a Comp Cams Extreme Energy, one of the, it was 230, 236 at 510, 520 lift. And the thing would slobber all over itself. But man, that was a fun car to drive. And I built a 350 turbo in it and put it was a GER, which I don't even think they're in business anymore. GER converter in it. I put a 2400 stall in it, and you couldn't keep the back end underneath that car. I mean, you barely step on it. It was going sideways, even with the factory 273 posi it had in it. It was stupid. Thing had top end. It could have used a lot better gear, and it would have been better with like a 342 or a 373, but I never got that far. But anyway, long story short, and when I got ready to get rid of that car, I kept the engine out of it, and I sold the transmission to this kid that I put the carburetor intake on it. And the first time he took it and he put a stock converter back in it. First time he hit second gear, it broke the transmission mount. So that was pretty funny. But I kept that same roller motor that I built, and I decammed it a little bit and put it in my GMC that I had at the time, a pickup. And then that's the one I built another 700 R4 for that one. And I beat on it. I'll be honest with you, I beat on it. That truck was so much fun. Had a set of Flowmaster 40s on it, so it made all sorts of ruckus. H-pipe. It was a nice truck. I really loved that truck. I should have never sold it. But it wouldn't pull the camper like what I wanted to, because that's when we started getting into campers. And that's why I've got Bertha now, which is my 02 3/4 ton. It's got the 8100 in it with an Allison, and that truck is a beast. I mean, I'm glad I bought it, but it pulls my camper no problem. I've had as much as 23,000 pounds for that truck in there. I went across the scales at that, and it pulled it like nothing. It's no diesel, but I mean, for a gas motor, I was pretty impressed with it. A 4L79 input drum? Never heard of that. Is that a new terminology? Have never heard of that. $4L79 drum kit. Input drum with wider frictions. Interesting. K-Hall Performance transmissions, huh? Mason's 4L79 drum. Okay, so it's made by Mason. I have not seen that. See if it's got pictures of it. Interesting. Good Lord, that thing looks hell for stout now. Wow. That's impressive. Man, they increased the crap out of the surface area on those clutches. Wow. I wonder what that does for longevity of that drum, though, because it looks like the walls on that drum are super thin. K&M Transmissions in Indiana makes it. It's screw-on cap. Well, that's what the Sonic says, too. Says no Sonics. Is this? Well, I thought their other shell was. Right, it's a bolt-on cap. Huh. I don't even want to know what that damn thing cost. Oh, I see what you're saying on the screw-on cap. The actual drum itself is threaded? Is that what I'm looking at? Wow. Yeah, I'd imagine it would be. So I wonder what their advantage was other than being able to put 350 clutches in it and a stock drum. It almost looks like they so do they eliminate the load springs too? Well, yeah, with the screw-on cap, it would keep the top of that drum from flexing. Especially since it goes around so they don't use the load springs on them. They have custom load springs. Okay. No, I hadn't heard of that 4L79 drum. That's it's pretty badass. Definitely. So does that take a different reaction carrier? The outside housing, or is it the same? Is it a stock one? Oh, it is a stock one. Okay. Yeah, that's a new one on me. I'll have to look it up. Cannot screw the factory gas cap onto them. The only thing I can think of is if they did that, if they changed the gas cap, you know. So Brian, I'm assuming that you're a tech also, that maybe a transmission builder in a shop by chance, or are you just doing on the side, or what? Look at there. They actually have a website. Well, that's not a bad hobby to do. Unfortunately, I do it for a living. I just don't do a lot of that stuff. I do like performance builds out of my house. Um, but I'd love to be able to just do it out of my house, period. Just do nothing but custom stuff because I enjoy it. I really do. I like just big jigsaw puzzles. Yeah, it's fun until you start working on some of these new ones and it fights you every bit of the way. Getting everything, all the drums to seat on an 8L90 is a pain in the can because half the time they don't want to do it. No, I'm actually the full Monty. I have to pull them out and then I build them, and man, asking for a clean room is like asking for a glass of water. It just ain't going to happen. I wish I had a clean room. I really do. An actual build room. But no, I do the R&R too. Front wheel drives, rear wheel drives. Well, it's a pretty big dealer. I mean, it's not huge dealer, but I mean, it's about average size. We've got, let me think, 1, 2, 3. There's 6 techs, 3 lube kids, 2 Mazda techs. We're in the same building. But there's 3 of us in one end of the building that's actually its own dedicated shop. It's an 8-bay shop, and that's where all the heavy line stuff takes care of. Steve he's across the shop from me. He does mostly the diesel stuff and, a few engine jobs. Scott usually does engine jobs and maybe transmission swaps, but I'm the only transmission builder there. So I'm the lucky one that gets to tear them down and find out what happened to them and fix them and put them back in. Right now, the 6L80s are the money makers. Well, not really, but they're the ones that fail the most. Well, I appreciate that. I wish more people did because it's tough. And, I can tell you there's not a lot of young kids getting in it anymore, unfortunately. I mean, it's a tough gig. There's no lie about it. I mean, you have to work for it. And I think a lot of the kids figure out that, you mean I got to buy my tools too? Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with an older Nissan either. I mean, they run good. I'm actually driving a Cadillac XT5, not XT5, CT5 right now, which replaced the CTS. I drove it to school the past 2 days. So, all right. What do you want to know about valve bodies other than they're complicated? Not really. Do you vacuum any of your valve bodies? I haven't seen anything on the vids. No, I don't vacuum them. They do make test plates for them. I don't have any of the test plates. Maybe someday I can afford to do it because I'm limited budget on what I can do until I can get some of the stuff sold. But usually you can tell by looking at a valve or looking at the inside of the bore on the valve body. If it's worn real bad, it'll be super shiny, and you can tell by the way the valve goes into the bore whether or not it's going to seal and do what it's going to need to do. But for the most part, if you get one that's really bad, Sonex makes reamer kits for these valve bodies, and people have asked me, says, why don't you just get the reamer kit? Well, here's something to think about. Most of the time you can find a reman valve body from Sonex for $225. The reamer kits cost anywhere from $500 to $600. So usually it's cheaper just to get a reman valve body and go down the road with it. Granted, it probably won't have any shift kit in it, but you put that in. Now on my pumps, Brian, I do have the reamer for the pumps. So that always gets replaced. Brian, it wouldn't take much to make one of those plates either, like what you're talking about. You could make a plate and drill a couple of holes in it and check your valves that way. Just use a spacer plate gasket or something like that, and you can do the same thing. In fact, you could even use an old spacer plate, just bolt it to the valve body. Should be able to check it that way too. Here, I'll type it out for you, Brian. I mean, it's pretty easy. There you go. Yeah, those are the two that get abused the most. Yeah, the TCC and the AFL valve are always the one that gets abused. There's always kits that you can do to improve it, but those are the ones that get abused the most. My 4L60Es, like this 94 that I'm doing now, it doesn't have a it doesn't have a PWM solenoid for the torque converter clutch. And that year it was just an on-off clutch. That's kind of why I like this transmission, is because it doesn't have that valve in it. I mean, you don't have to worry about it. So I mean, it's pretty simple on that deal. But if it was any of the later model ones, I would eliminate that PWM solenoid anyway, because I'd rather the clutch either be on or off. I really don't want it to slip. You know, the slipping to me just creates heat. And, you know, they did it basically because of when you're on and off the gas pedal anyway. Yeah, that's the same reason why I don't buy it either. But, you know, there's a couple of places out there that have got a kit for the AFL valve if you got one that's worn, and you put this. God, I just looked it up. It was like Fritz or something like that. Yeah, what was the other one I seen? I think I found it. I think I actually found it on Amazon, believe it or not. Fits all. Well, it's for the TCC. It's for the P1870 code, but it's a fits all. And I've seen those in a lot of valve bodies. In fact, right, that's what I'm saying. The fits all is the TCC valve, but the AFL I haven't seen. So Central Valve Bodies in Oklahoma, huh? Get an underhood wiring harness. What part of the harness are you looking for, Corey? Are you looking for the body harness, or are you looking for the engine harness, or what? Excuse me. Both. The only thing I can tell you on that one, Corey, is get on thirdgen.org's website and put a post out there saying that you're looking for that stuff. I might have some of that stuff available once I get this donor done, because I'm not going to need, is once I get the engine and stuff out of it, I'm not going to need two harnesses. Because right now I've got 3 IROCs out in my backyard. One is a donor that's actually got my engine, and it's got another 700 R4 in it. And like I said, that's my donor for all the parts. And then I've got another 87 that was a carbureted automatic car. but those still have intact body harnesses in it. In fact, the donor's basically a complete car. So I can't tell you. Oh, you're fine, Brian. Hey, I'm just glad you feel like participating. That's cool. And the information's good for anybody that wants to get out there and see. And unfortunately, I've only got 4 people in here, so yeah, it's about the way the last one was. But anyway, Corey, just kind of have to, see what follow my videos, and when I get close to it, if you're still interested in them, we can work out something there. But yeah, Brian, send me that link of that stuff. I'd be interested in doing it, or figuring out a way to do that. Yeah, I had a 91, Corey. I had a 91. Had a 91 Formula that was a 5-liter throttle body. So, but that car's long gone. That's one of them that I let go. There's a couple of them I wish I never would have got rid of them. One of them was my 87 GTA that I had. That was a 5-speed. And, well, actually, I wish I never would have got rid of any of them, but that is what it is. What's up, Jeremy? Yeah, I sent a post out earlier in the week saying I was going to do another live stream. So I apologize if you didn't get it. But welcome to the room. Anyway, I finally got all my parts for Scarlett's 4L60E, and so I'm going to start building it. And being as it's a 94, there was an update for the low reversed. There is a update for the low reverse that was a bulletin for slow release, and it has you, I think, drilling a hole. Drilling like a 30 thousandths hole in the low reverse piston, and it was only on the 93, 94 models. They started correcting it later on. That just those first electronic passages were too small. Brian, I am running 5-gear planets in Scarlett's. To me, they're going to be stronger. Yeah, Corey, I wish I would have, like I said, I wish I would have kept it if I'd known that by now. But anyway, the 5-gear planets are going to hold more torque because you've got more surface area grabbing teeth. That's the whole theory behind it. So I'm running 5-gear planets on Scarlett's transmission. I got lucky when I got a core, and it was actually a 4L65. So it had 5-gear planets in it, and I was like, man, I can't believe I lucked out with that. Jeremy, yes, I do plan on doing a manual. I've got a Tremec T5, which is basically a Borg Warner. It's still a Borg Warner, but Tremec took over the build, but it's like an 02 model. I'm going to be going through that on the channel. I don't have any T56 or TR6060 stuff to go through yet, and those are becoming scarce. And of course, everybody's busting the input shafts or putting way too much power through it than what it was designed to handle. But yeah, I do plan on going through a manual. I may be putting that manual. The other 87 that I've got is a automatic. Yeah, Jeremy, when the Tremec took over for Borg Warner, all the transmissions, all the T5s were world class after that, which basically means there's a roller bearing underneath each gear. And so, yeah, it's some good stuff. Brian, on my 3/4 clutch on Scarlet, I'm going to use a Z-Pack on it. Had very good luck with Z-Packs. They come with everything all together. So yeah, Ray Bestis. I've used their clutches many times before and never had a failure with it. So that's what I'm using. So it's actually a Z-Pack. But there's all sorts of combinations. You can do an 8-pack setup if you wanted to do super thin fibers. Borg Warner High Energy, yeah. In fact, the first kit that I ordered for this, I wanted the Ray Bestis, and the first kit that he sent me was Borg Warners, and I had called him back and says, "Hey man," says, "I really want the Ray Bestis kit," and so he sent it out. So I'm going to send the